Hi guys, welcome to the video, welcome to East Midlands in the UK, and welcome to this beastie here. This is the Black Square Starship for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and 2024. Released a couple of weeks ago, something like that, by Just Flight, and it's going to be the subject of today's video. Now what we're going to do in the time-honoured fashion, we'll have a look at the outside, the inside, take it for a flight and see what we think. But it's quite obvious even from the outset that this is quite a unique beastie. This is a fascinating aircraft in so many ways, whether it's the aerodynamics, the airframe, the avionics. There's so much going on here. It's a fascinating aircraft, and that for me is one of the joys of flight simulation, is that yes, we can follow a magenta line in our 737 or Airbus or whatever it might be. We can go to far-flung and distant lands, but also we can come across aircraft like this. There was only about 50 of these things ever built. It's not just a rare aircraft, it's a super rare aircraft. And, you know, it's such a fascinating thing to look at. There's so many things, so many points of interest. Now what we're going to do, as I say, we're going to have a look at it in the time-honoured fashion, have a look at the outside, the inside, take it for a flight. Huge thanks to Just Flight, as ever, for providing a review copy. Although, obviously, I have editorial freedom. I'm not beholden to them, so those who've watched my videos before know that I'm quite happy to rip things apart, good, bad and ugly, and if I see it, I will say it and I will show it to you guys. I think it's only fair that we do go through and look at it with a keen, objective eye in terms of what's going on here. Now, as I say, first thing I'm going to do is just bring the web page over, because sometimes we can glean some useful information from the web page. This is a pretty unique beast. 1979 or something like that, I think it says on here, first flight or when it went to market. Here we go. Beginning 1979, entered in 1989. All right, okay. But it's a pretty spaceshipy looking type thing, isn't it, really? Now, it's interesting. They use phrases like unapologetically realistic. There's a lot of stuff going on in this cockpit that makes it just such a fascinating. They had not learnt about ergonomics and human factors when they built this thing. They just basically got a shotgun with a load of instruments and fired it at the canopy. But there's a lot of things that hark back to the old school. Things like VLF, so I assume that's very low frequency, and Omega radio navigation systems. These things don't really exist anymore these days. I think these days the most old school we get is HF for transatlantic or long range, low altitude communications. We used to use them in the Sea Kings for when we were out of visual line of sight, so that we could be down at 200 feet and still communicate with our ships or land bases or whatever it was. And I think it's still in use because of that very feature. Satellites are not always accessible or available, much as we like to think of that these days. Anyway, off that platform, let's go back to this 3-year passion project. I always like the idea of it being a passion project, because at the end of the day that means they're going to do their damnedest to get the best representation they possibly can. Oh yeah, here, 6 remaining airworthy aircraft today. That's not very many at all, which is a real shame. These sorts of things are kind of earth-shattering or norm-breaking. They shattered the norms, I think is the way I'd look at it. But Black Square, they've got a pretty good reputation in my eyes. One of the most technically advanced aircraft simulations for Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is a big claim. We will have a look at it as we go. 230 possible failures, blah blah blah, new turbine engine failures, etc. I have trashed, or generally mostly trashed my engines through not using them properly, so we can have a look at that. And the avionics are old school is an understatement. So yeah, they're not steam gauge, they are EFIS, etc., but they're old school. Again, it's like they were frozen in time from the 80s. Fascinating. Black Square always do good manuals, so and it's important with them that you do read their manuals. Various bits, usual stuff from the configure the aircraft to tune stations on the other side of the globe. Ooh, it's actually functional. Absolutely fascinating. But yeah, there's loads of good information in here. Very worth while having a look at. Things like I haven't seen it yet, but I like the idea of St Elmo's light system. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. This for me makes me chuckle. Floppy disk reader. We will mention that as we're in the aircraft. Flight dynamics. The flight dynamics of a canard 4-plane aircraft like this are very unique in certain areas. So, for example, they shouldn't be able to stall in a conventional stall. I'll mention that when we have a look at the outside. And then this instrument list. There's so much of this stuff that I just don't recognise. You know, for those who've done general aviation with Bendix Kings or Garmins, that kind of thing, so much of this stuff is completely unfamiliar. And then other aircraft, other equipment and line replaceable units, electrical miscellaneous, 172 plus circuit breakers. Oof, ouchie. So yeah, there's a lot going on there. Gives us a lot of information. Right. So originally I was going to have a look at following a SimBrief flight plan, because most aircraft or add-ons these days, you plug it all into SimBrief and then you chuck it across. Not the case with this beastie, which is absolutely fine, because generally speaking you're not going to be doing massive great routes with 30-odd, 40-odd waypoints. But I would highlight from the outset, it hasn't got departures, normal departures. So for RNAV or GPS departures, it doesn't have that in the system. Likewise, not all of these waypoints are necessarily in the system. So I went not old school, but a bit basic, and went to SkyVector just to put a few bits and bobs in, which, you know, it's a really useful tool. But this kind of thing, it really benefits just sticking a bit of stuff in SkyVector, etc. Yeah, if you have a look on Wikipedia, this is a really, really rare aircraft. There's, as I say, there's only something like 6 flying now, but the design is fascinating, and there's so many bits of this aircraft that even with a Canard 4-plane that are different. Yeah, it's got some standout features that are just traditional Beechcraft. Some of the switchgear, etc. You look at it and you go, yeah, that's Beechcraft, that is. So what we're going to do now is we'll have a look at the outside in the time-honoured fashion. We're going to have a look at the outside from a distance, then we'll close in and see what we think, and see whether it's going to play ball for us. And if my joystick's going to play ball, is it going to play ball? There we go. Right, I'm sure you'll agree it's a rather unorthodox looking airframe, but it's also fantastically spaceship-like. You know, there's to call it the Starship is probably the most appropriate name that you can imagine for this aircraft. It's a fantastic planform. Obviously, it's got the Canard 4 planes, main wings set further back. The PT6s are set over the top of the wing line. Long undercarriage, predominantly due to the fact that you've got the props at the back, and therefore, obviously, if you imagine, once you start to rotate, your tail fin is inverted. So from your empennage, it's inverted here, which makes it, I mean, again, that's a fascinating thing, seen on very few aircraft. I'll go into a little bit about this when we do the walk around. The flaps are single stage. There's only one, they're either up or down. Wing fences to stop spanwise flow of air. So there's a lot of things on this that are kind of aerodynamic tweaks. You can see them all down here as well. But yeah, let's have a closer look, see what we think. We'll come down to a usual start point, which is where we'd get into the aircraft. Now, again, there's elements of this that you kind of go, what the hell is going on here? These Canard 4 planes move fore and aft based on the flap settings of the aircraft. So these are your elevators. You know, it's pretty similar to just swapping a normal aircraft front to back, really. But the layout of this, the design of this layout is supposed to mean that you can't have it in a conventional stall, i.e. these 4 planes will stall before the main wings, and then that means that the nose will drop. As it drops, the aircraft increases speed. these will generate more lift, this will then generate lift, and it will become active again. So in theory, you shouldn't be able to create or you shouldn't be able to go into a conventional stall. Is probably the best way of explaining it. There's things that stand out in terms of what I call aerodynamic fixes, or elements where they're trying to do things, they're trying to manipulate the air. So we've got a load of what appear to be vortex generators across the leading edge of the tailplane here. I say tailplane, it's not a tailplane, it's obviously the canards. But we've got this line of vortex generators, which I find fascinating to start with. Yes, we've got the usual, let's count the nuts and bolts, static wicks, but this kind of thing, these aerodynamic fixes, for me, are fascinating because these swing forwards and back. So the presentation of these vortex generators differs to the air depending on whether these things are swung forwards or back, which means the designers have chosen to, or had to do something aerodynamically to improve the behavior of this wing. Whether it's in terms of the behavior, the lift profile, etc., we may never know. But it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating to start with. So as soon as you go into it, it goes fascinating. You can put pitot covers, etc., on to look after things, make sure they're all kept to the best cleanliness possible. Nice use of PBR, you can see with the texturing. A little bit scruffy down here, and it's a bit of a weird straight lining effect here, but don't forget these are moving parts as well. PBR textures and 3D modelling down here are, the only word I can use for this is exquisite. We've got kind of a dirt effect on the inside of the gear bay doors. I think it's clicking, it's doing my head in, but very nicely done. Obviously, compared to an airliner, these things also tend to get cleaned a lot more. But yeah, look at the reflection on here. This is really, really good, and the reflection on the lenses, and yeah, little scuff marks with dirt every now and again. Gear bay doors, a little bit of straight lining on the bottom of the nose cone there, but yeah, I mean, we are stupendously close in with this thing. These ribs are because these are, I believe they're inflatable boots, pneumatic inflatable boots for anti-ice or de-icing. Yeah. Just fascinating construction. Static port, I would assume, down here. Sort of areas where we get complex 3D modelling are areas like this. The line's pretty good. There's not a lot of squaring off there. Texture's looking good. Depends on where you're looking at it from in terms of what you get. Obviously, inflatable de-icing boots again. And things where you get complex 3D modelling, they've been done to a very nice standard. Again, if we go down to the main gear, we can have a look at that. Look at that. That's almost true to life. I'm not quite sure. This must be a static wick for discharging static to the ground. But the wheels and the wheel hubs look absolutely fantastic. I mean, we're in the middle of the wheel hub here. Come on, mouse, you can do it. And again, use of PBR. That's I would guess that's more to do with the sim than it is to do with their objects and their PBR. But they're trying to reflect the tyres look. I think that's exceptional. Really nicely done. Depth to the grooves on the tyres now. We're starting to see that a lot more in aircraft these days. Decent amount of stuff in the wheel well. It's not something that I'd shout out about. Having said that, I don't tend to stare at them whilst we're in flight. We've got all the usual things in terms of various nipples, etc., for whatever's going on with that undercarriage. Coming along here, not quite sure what's going on with these leading edge strakes. Obviously got the wingtips, which aren't just like the wingtips that you see on airliners. These are obviously the rudders as well. Fascinating. And you know, things like the curved wing, almost reminiscent of Concorde, that continuous curve coming around. Fascinating. Again, nice lights. The rudders look good. Nice hinge points for the rudders. Nice texturing. I'm finding very few things here to be critical about. More aerodynamic manipulation here of the airflow, more vortex generators. Obviously they're leading towards the flight control surfaces, and therefore they're trying to re-energize the air. So interesting. Flaps are under here, 2-position. When they come out, the animation is really quite fascinating, because you've got a lower linkage look, and then you've got the upper linkage. So I think they come out as single stage Fowler flaps. I'm not entirely sure, but we can have a look at that. Again, PBR lighting is very nice. Don't know if we're going to see much in the intake. We're not going to be doing it if my camera works like that. Again, the burnished effect, the burnished metal effect on the exhaust, really nice. The dull matte effect on the prop, and again, nice attention to detail, very good shaping in terms of 3D modelling, curvature. The matte effect really takes it well. Prop blades, nicely feathered, great stuff. Not sure if this is down to the model or the 3D texture or what's going on here, but slight inconsistency. You never know, it's probably like that in the real aircraft. Even that rear light lens looks great. That looks fantastic. Weird to see the tail fin beneath the fuselage. Obviously for aerodynamic reasons, that's one of the key elements. Obviously it's also an issue that if you over rotate, you've got the props and also this behind you. So I don't know why they've done that, whether it's to protect the props or from over rotation, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you can see the attention to detail with all the hinge points down here. There's a lot going on with this airframe. Really beautifully done as well, I have to say. Coming around to the front, we often see models where they absolutely make a hash of the textures and the 3D joins, but they haven't here. Lovely fine detail of wipers. Being ultra critical, some of the textures get a little bit fuzzy as you get close to them, but you would expect that if I mean the 3D modelling of the wiper blade there with the spindle, really nice. As I say, yeah, really hard to become critical of that. They've done a really nice job, and it can take close inspection, which is the important thing. Oh, that's one of the things I will highlight. Look at the state of the canopy. It's like it's been polished with a Brillo pad. I mean, more credit to them for doing it, but I'm not sure I'd want that plexiglass replacing, because yeah, but beautifully done, and a real feeling of depth to the windows as well. Let's come down here. Yeah, and again, there's no real sign of any straight lining in these. So if you've got a complex curve, because it's going this way, and also it's going sort of around there, so it's really nicely done. Really nicely done. So let's pop out of this, and let's do this, because we've also got assets out here that can interact with, so we can open the door. No sound. That for me is, I don't really like that. I would expect some sort of sound. What have I done into? Oh, it's different controls, isn't it? There we go. Shame that silent. But as you come up, there are some points where you can wiggle stuff. You can obviously put chocks in. See, remove them, because otherwise we're not going to go anywhere. But stupid thing. I don't know if we can wiggle these now. It's probably to do with control locks more than anything else. You can do the static things of doing covers, etc. Obviously we want our airspeed to work. My favourite bit's yet to come. I mean, the detail on these as you come around these is superb. Look at that. I mean, that's, you could be in the real world with that view. That viewpoint there of the wing is just beautiful. And that light as well, the navigation light and landing lights, beautiful, beautiful. Right, my favourite bit of the whole thing is you'll often see turboprop pilots doing this before they start their aircraft. One of the things they do when they walk around is they check the blades of their turboprop to make sure there's any nicks, damage, etc. on the blades. Love it. I love the fact it's also got the right amount of momentum because it will continue until it just loses the momentum and stops. The animation is smooth, I think is what I'm trying to get out. The animation of the whole thing is smooth. It's a simple thing, but I am a child at the end of the day. I am a child. There is some stuff you can wiggle somewhere, I think. Can you wiggle these? The rudders? I mean, again, fascinating to have twin rudders on an aircraft, not something you usually see. I thought you could wiggle these. I was certain you could. Never mind, maybe not. But yeah. So there's not much that's negative, to be honest. I'm quite bemused by the lack of sound opening and closing the door. But other than that, I think the outside is just a great thing. So let's pop back inside. And let's have a look at the inside. Okay, so before we get into the electronics of this thing, let's have a look at the generics. This screams 70s, 80s, late 70s, early 80s, doesn't it really? This is classic Beechcraft with the switches where it's got the red surround because it might be important to you. But this is like the sort of thing that you'd see back in the TV or on the TV back in the days. And there's all sorts of idiosyncratic bits in terms of these control systems up here. You've got two flight management systems. They are very basic. It's got an old telephone style keypad. You'll see what I go on about with that. But you'll also see that in terms of ergonomics and system management, this thing is all over the place. So yes, we've got EFIS, but it's basic. It's old school EFIS. It's not trying to be anything fancy. It is what it is. But these... So up here you've got your decision height and your minimum descent height or altitude. Next to communication panel communication and reversionary panels here and here. You've got your main flying panels. You've got a backup standby compass down here. I can't remember what this is. We'll have a look in a moment. Then this is like a multi-function panel for radar, checklists, etc. This is your engine panel, so your ICAS as it would be. And then down here you've got some bits for air here. There's some bits for air. Where have they gone? Bits for air down here. You've got obviously your two FMSs. This is how you control your autopilot down here. But this is also how you control your autopilot down here. With your pitch trim stabs, etc. You've got a GNS 430, I think it is, available to you down here. You've got FMS radios that you can use, or you can use conventional radio tuning. Then over here you've got all your circuit breakers obviously work. Nice sounds for them. Oxygen mask, you can test that as well. And it's just more circuit breakers down here. And it's things like these two switches here are for, oh God, what are they for again? But I couldn't find them for ages. Could not find them for ages. We'll probably encounter them again in the checklist. Oh, these are for your inlet doors, so your inertial separators. But unless you read the instructions, you won't find them. And even then, it took a bit of going through to figure them out. But yeah, so yes, it's part of the ice protection panel and the air, the ice protection and the windshield, etc. But I didn't really associate inertial separators with ice protection in terms of the panel, but I suppose they are. You have to turn your oxygen system on. That's here. Fascinating again. Got pneumatic information and so on and so forth. Anti-skids down here. I guess it's near the landing handle. But you're all sorts of... There's a mix of stuff here. So this is a mix of systems in terms of anti-skids, etc., electrical systems, battery and electrical systems, ICAS. Obviously, you've got your standard sort of Beechcraft 6-pack of levers. Coming down here, these are your autopilot manipulation controls, pitch trim settings that you can change as well. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Then you've got your cabin altitude here. You've got your air conditioning down here. You've got your bleeds here. Let's get rid of that. With your pressurization and your oxygen there. We've got COM panel over here. We've got COM panel over here. It's just all over the place. Oh, here's how you do your course and heading adjustments down here. Nowhere near anything else. As I say, two flight autopilot panels here, so you'll only generally be operating one or the other. Yeah, it's just unique. There's nothing else like this. Oh, and of course on the overhead, you come up and you've got your lights up here with a master switch for the light system. Yeah, just whee. Can we move it? Yeah, we can. Nice sound to it as well. It makes me wonder why they didn't do the doors. Gust locks. Actually on the controls, are they? Yes, there they are, because you're an idiot, aren't you? Yeah, the interior I find to be a fascinating throwback into time. In terms of the 3D modelling, it's done to a very nice standard. Oh my god, there's more fuses in there, circuit breakers I should say. Wow. Fantastic. So you've got them there, there. These are circuit breakers, aren't they? I'm sure you'll probably have some under their arm. Yeah. We've got any down here? There's stuff all over the place. Here's your covers and nose wheel gear pins. Sorry. This we'll mention in a moment. This is navigation. One of the things I've noticed is that compared to some other aircraft, there's not a lot of clickability in the cabin. Doesn't really bother me, but beautiful lighting effect on the wood, on the veneers. But yeah, there's not a lot that's clickable in here. As I say, I'm not remotely bothered. And there's a nice thing down here. If I open the doors, you'll see we've got Bert. I think it's Bert Rutan's signature. He's one of the big players in this format, this layout. And there was the Bert Rutan Long Easy and Fly Easy were two General Aviation aircraft in this layout, which is a really nice touch. But yeah, very nicely done. As I say, I think it's more aesthetic than anything else. Really nice texturing to the leather. That does look like grained leather. A little bit of straightening off there, but I'm not really bothered by that. The windows look really good. Again, 3D depth to the modelling. Very, very, very well done. Again, text and very nice. I remember the days when it used to go all blurry when you were that close. Again, the PBR with the polished veneer wood, etc. Metal on the steps. Green markings to show the door is closed and locked. Then obviously you've got some light switches. Air operator certificate, I'd guess. Certificate of registration. Yeah, really good. What's this? Dedicated to Bert Rutan. Oh, this is lovely. This is. He was Voyager, Global Flyer, Spaceship One, Strato launch, Proteus launch, Starship, Varies. Here we go. The Varies and Long Easy, popular home build Canard aircraft. Absolute legend in my book. Absolute legend. God, even the modelling down here is just next level. Yeah. And to be fair, with an aircraft like this, lighting as it goes over the PBR of the throttles, obviously they're going to be polished because they're used a lot. I say throttles, power levers really, aren't they? So yeah, the 3D modelling, texturing, lighting, etc. Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. No qualms with that at all. Okay, so let's get going. I've just had to reset the engines because I had a bit of an issue getting one going. It got to a condition of 0, and I think it was I didn't have the inertial separators down, and as a result I think it's just sucked up all the gravel. So here we are, attempt 2. That's why you might be able to hear some of the gyros still winding down in the background. But let's have another go, see if we can get this thing to work. Let me just check that some of the switches I'd moved are back in their normal position. That one should be there. That's fine. That's fine. They're all fine. That's fine. They're all fine. That one would normally need to go in. Right. Let's get ourselves going. So we've got ourselves an external power cart coming on. What I've done previously is I've accidentally left the starter generator, the starter switches on too long, and that then causes problems with the electrical system. So it's a very well modelled electrical system. You know, they've done a really nice job. You've got your gang switch here, so you turn this on, but if you want to turn it off quickly in an emergency or whatever, that will turn off all of these switches. But we'll put it on. You'll see very basic instrumentation comes up. We've got the 2 radio tuning units here, but what you'll see when we come up with more power is we get more information up. So we come up here, we're just going to check that that's on. We've got voltage for the ground power. This is one of the problems with mouse wheel scroll to zoom. So batteries on 25.8, which is fine. External power's on, which is fine. And we're just going to come down here, turn the external power on, and things should start to spring to life. Now, what we then do is we turn these on. You hear the avionics fans start to chunter away, and you'll see instrumentation start to come to life. Now, we'll just leave it on ground power at the minute, and what we'll do is we'll talk about the instrumentation. The instrumentation is old school to next level old school. Early days of EFIS, but you see they've got some fascinating instrumentation in here. So we've got the usual Beechcraft attitude and head and reference system loading up. We've got the HSI. We can change this mode and platform, etc. We'll show you that. Airspeed indicator is just funky as hell. You can see obviously it's got sort of traditional sort of markings, but the needle is this green light that moves around. And then you also get a digital numeric representation in here. You can change things like the outside air temperature, how it's measuring or what it's measuring. So that's all very good. Here's your stall line and here's your VSE. Let me just think, yeah. You've got secondary instruments down here. You can see one of the VORs is Bravo Zulu November, so that's Bryce Norton. I'm not sure where Mike Alpha Mike is, but it'll be somewhere near it at the end of the day, won't it? But you can see we've got the ability to change the format on this as well, so we can set our different instruments on this. In terms of how it operates, so we can have needles, we can have it as an ILS, etc. So it's a really useful standby instrument. In terms of using the panel, there's loads of duplication in here, ridiculous amounts of duplication, but there's also a fair helping of things that you need to be aware of where things have been placed all over the place. So for example, yes, we've got our usual attitude indicator. Down here we've got navigation equipment, but this FMS is so different to what you'll be used to in your airliners. We'll just have a quick look at it. It's a Collins, but it's more similar to what you see in, say, later CRJ type things or Dash 8s, for example. So we're going to initialize the system, and then you can change the data and set the data. So you'll see it says read write diskette. If you want to just update the data, you come down here, you put the diskette in, put the diskette in, it then closes, and then you can come up here, and should you wish, you can read write the diskette. Read it, it's going to read it, it's going to come up with a couple of options: update database, etc., update the checklist, and so on and so forth. So we'll just update the database. It'll chunter a bit of time. Flight data, we'll just take that one. And what this will do is this will load up the database. I think it asks you to update it every 30 days or so, something like that. But it's a nice little sort of feature of the whole thing. You can hear it whirring away in the background. And there we go. Old database, new database, continue. And then that's all done. Let's pop that back to that. And then we'll just get that out, pop that away. Because we don't need it now, we've updated the data list. We'll just go down this menu whilst we're here. Root library is exactly what it says on the tin. Once you've got some saved routes, they will appear here. Come back down to the index. Initialize system. This is what we've just done, so we don't need to worry about that. Back to index. Fuel management. It will ask you what fuel you want to put in. So we've got, what did I say we have? 23 2,300 pounds. So 2,300. Pop that in there. It will then ask you to confirm it. You click that, and it comes up with the weights and passenger list, similar to what you'd have in, say, the CRJ. You can see the sort of lineage here already. So this is quite nice as a sort of throwback. Let's go back to index. This is how you can change all your flight management system sort of waypoint information. Coming across here, we've done the read-write diskette. You can inspect waypoints. So if you click on it, you see it come down to the bottom right. It says keyboard. So EGPH, and it will tell you all about it. So if I click enter, it'll tell me what kind of thing. It's an airport with hard standing or hard runways, where it is, frequencies for the airfield, and it hasn't got the variation, so that's just one of those things. I think with the sim limitations, did display the runways. We've got 2406. We're going to be going into 24. So useful information if you're not familiar with an airfield. And then FMS data. It's literally the flight planners we're going. So we've got EGNX at the moment. What we need to do is we need to give it a destination. So we'll do the flight plan in a bit. Before we do that, we'll just quickly cover this, the system controls. This is your transitioning between legs in your flight plan, so auto leg, manual leg, or select a course. GPS random autonomous integrity monitoring is there should you wish to play around with that. Position hold, I've not really figured this out. Update VLF. If you come up with a small yellow message down here, quite often it will be to update the VLF, the old school navigation system. You can see at the moment we've got no messages, but if you did have a message for that, you then click here, update VLF from FMS, click, boom, that would be done. So happy days with that. And having done all of that, we're going to go to the flight plan. We're going to put in our flight plan. So we've got EGNX. We're going to EGPH. Enter. So EGNX to EGPH. What we're also going to do now is put other waypoints in. We've only got a couple of other waypoints, so we're going to click on there. It will come up with... No, it won't. EGNX, EGPH. Then we go... Oh, I've broken it, haven't I? End flight plan. EGNX to EGPH. Right. Insert after. What did we have as our route? We had Trent. So Tango November. November Tango. Then we had insert after that. I've probably not done this the slickest way, but I have done it a way that I've managed to remember how to do it at least. So Papa Oscar Lima, enter, enter, and then after that, insert after. We've got a, what is it? It's Tala. TLA. enter. Okay, so there we go, we've got our route. Let's just check it whilst we're here. EGNX, TNT, pole, teller, EGPH. If I go all the way up, you can see where we're going from to. It will be highlighted on here in a moment. We can also pre-select our approaches, the same as any other system. We're going for an ILS for 2.4. We're going from teller, so we'll click that, and then it will come up with the information in relation to that. So we've got course distance, etc. And if I scroll down now, you see it comes up with the waypoints of the teller arrival. You can't do departures, you can only do arrivals. You could in theory program in a departure, but we're not going to do that. So there we go, flight plan. It hasn't got any information in terms of altitudes or any of that stuff. Yeah, it's just very, very basic, but very enjoyable, I have to say. So we've gone through that. Now, in terms of duplication, as I say, there's lots of duplication all over the place. I'm not sure if this will have copied across the flight plan. Yes, it has. Nice. Right. In terms of duplication, a few things that we're going to just highlight and oddities. So, the controls for this screen here are your heading bugs and your courses are down here. Your decision heights, decision altitudes are up here, and then your actual controls, lost track of them, where they've gone again. Oh, they're on here. So these controls for that. So you've got the controls for that there. You've also got controls for the bugs there, and then you've also got bug controls here for it. You can also change the modes in that. So we've got it HSI. You can also have radar mode with an arc. You can have arc following a map, the same as you'd have with a an Airbus, for example. Or you can also select nav source. So in this case, we don't want VOR1, we want FMS1 because we've programmed it in. We're going to flipping well use it. So that's all that set up. You've got radar controls are here as well. So oddly, your radar controls are on your FMS, which is just freakish. It's just weird. And then bearings, if you wanted to set up bearings and pointers for VORs and FMS, etc. Pointers off. So we could do a pointer for the FMS if we wanted, but at the end of the day, at the moment, it's just going to be that straight line there anyway. So we'll just turn the pointers off. Yeah, such a funky system. And then coming down here, you also have the ability in here to change your comms channels, bearing in mind it's a duplicate of what's here. So you can do COM1 and COM2, both sides for these. So you've got duplication there. You've got nav information here, so you can do the same with your nav radios. One of the things you'll notice is that you can have the ability to pre-select multiple pre-select frequencies. So for example, if we'd preset this, so we're on 111.9, we can obviously go, yeah, I want that one now, and it's gone to 115.40, and then you can go, well, actually I want this one, 110.2, so it goes to that. Actually, no, I need to recontact the unit before because I've got my clearances or my frequencies wrong. You see where I'm coming from in terms of you can change all your nav channels here, but you can do the same thing with COM. Sorry, I was getting carried away. You can do it all as, so you've got pre-selects for everything. 122.8, 124.5, and then we'll go back to 122.8, and you can do it for both sides. But obviously, if you don't want to do that, you can just use this or this. Yeah, it's madness. The amount of duplication there is absolute madness. Then you've got, obviously, it can do ADFs down here. You can pre-select for each side for the ADFs as well. ATC is obviously your transponder. So, yeah, it's sheer madness. In addition, for example, if you see over here, your transponder over here, but we'll leave that be. Obviously, you've got no transponder on the other side, but everything else is the same. So the amount of duplication or redundancy, you could say, is fantastic. We'll go over here now and highlight this screen. So yes, it's got all the procedures, etc. But in addition to this being able to control some radar stuff, radar controls here, you've also got stuff down here. So this will display your radar here, although you can also display your radar there. There we go. No. Let's just do that and then do that. So you can display your radar there, your radar there. It's madness. Radar controls if you want to change it. So we'll put, there's going to be no real weather, so we'll put the ground map on. And then you can do all sorts of funky bits with it. Back to this, if you want to scroll in and out, you've got the information here to do so, the buttons I should say. So you've got a little bit of clutter pinging up from the radar down here. You've also got the ability to, let's see, how do we go back? Index, oh no, let's go back to that radar. You can swap between radar 1, radar 2, so I'm not quite sure. A ground map and standby, oh there we go. Ground mapping, we'll have ground mapping, you can see the arm sweeping through now. Going back to the index, you could also have your plan map, so this is your route where you can display it here, and you can see we've got our plan. It's obviously set up for Tango November Tango at the moment as the next waypoint. We can then scroll in and out, and we can also turn this on. So if we wanted to put some what's on the menu, airports, terminal waypoints, it will just leave it as that at the minute and display. We can also then zoom out, and if we wanted to go via something, what we could do is click on this. We can just move this to where we want to go. So if we wanted to go, oh, that's up. I didn't want to do that. If we want to go to Pole Hill, we can just do that, and then we could do it that way. So you can actually construct your route doing it via that method. And I've done that before. That's quite good fun. I say good fun. It is. It's genuinely. This thing is so wacky with some stuff. So that's our plan map, which obviously we've just gone through. Present position map is pretty much the same thing, but focused on your present position. You know the difference because it's got the little yellow plane icon here. You still have your dobber that you can move around. So if you wanted to do a direct to, for example, you can just come over here. If you wanted to go direct to over here, you just come over here, and then you'll be able to choose direct to for that. It's a fantastic, funky 70s/80s system. It's yeah. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just brilliant. So yeah, we've got all the elements here, and then finally FMS. You can get various bits of information out of here in terms of your performance and so on and so forth. So it's got a huge amount of information here. All of this sort of stuff. It's just wacky and mad. The sheer amount of stuff that's here. Your route list. Obviously, you can have loads of routes in this thing, but we will not be doing that at this time. So flight plan, in fact, we'll put this on to, oh no, we've got that, we'll leave that on there, and then this we'll just put on to present position map display. There we go. So as you can see, the avionics are really funky. Oh, the only other thing we didn't mention is down here, my pet hate, and it's something that's common to all aircraft now. I don't know if it's a limitation of Microsoft Flight Simulator, but one of the biggest helpers you can have with this sort of aircraft is pop-out screens. And you go, well, that doesn't, that ruins sort of the whole immersion factor. Yeah, it does. But when you need to see your controls down here and the impact up here, particularly if it's the speed or whatever that you've got up here, it would be really nice. So you either need to set some keybinds, which I guess is probably the correct way of doing it, or instead of doing the keybinds, what you need to do is have a pop-up. But the correct way to do it would be to figure out what the keybinds are for these things, which I haven't got round to doing, and then just obviously go through that. HF set as well here. Used HF. It's still used quite widely actually these days because of the fact it can do long distance communications, and it can follow the curvature of the Earth, which obviously VHF can't. So yeah, fascinating thing. We will go through the checklist as well, because if I go through the checklist, hopefully I won't end up with what happens a lot, which is where I end up with the whole thing powering down because I've missed something. So checklist, normal operations, comes up with a disclaimer, which is absolutely fine. What was I going to do with this? I was going to put it into, I don't know, I'll leave it. But as you can see, saved air speeds, engine speeds, pre-flight checks, so we'll go through those. Parking brake is on, so let's clear that. Parking brake is on, control locks are removed, landing gears down, battery is on at the minute. I'm going to leave it on. Pitch roll, rudder trims are set to 0, fuel quantity is fine, oxygen pressures are checked. The actual oxygen, the actual air is here. We'll just pop this on. Coming down, air stair annunciator is checked. The air stairs are shut. The battery, it should go off. I'm going to leave it on. Wheel chocks are removed. Pitot static. Engine covers are all removed. Locking pins are removed. They're all behind me down here. Emergency exit is secure. And air stair door is locked. That's all done. Index, normal checklists, and then before start, let's just clear all of those, start from the beginning. Circuit breakers, left, right and auxiliary. Circuit breakers, yeah, they look good to me, and number 2 would be able to do those, and then we've got others down here, but they all look good to me, which is fantastic. Outboard reversionary panels are these here. There's one on each side. Keep going through. Seatbelts, harnesses tight. Parking brake is on. Audio panels and microphone are as required. Static sources are normal. Oxygen supply, which is that one I did down there, is system ready. Pull on, which is there. Yeah. Oxygen mask can test those. I'm not going to do that in a minute. Ice protection we don't need. Landing gear is down. Anti-skid switch is on, which is there. Center reversionary panel, which I believe is this here. Your standby instruments, which are all fine. Standby instruments are on. Standby battery power on annunciator is illuminated. I'm not going to worry about that. Prop levers are full forward, which they are. These are classic King Air handles. This is Beechcraft all over, isn't it? Prop levers full forward. So that's all good. Next page. Condition levers, fuel cutoff. They are. Bleed air valves are off. Temperature, temp mode is off. Battery is on because that's how we're working at the minute. Triple feed bus faults are fine. We'll ignore all those. ICAS is all fine. Firewall valves. These valves up here. So when you have your 737 and you have your fire handle and you pull your fire handle, the pull actually shuts off fuel and closes the firewall valves on a 737. It doesn't distinguish. It doesn't set off the extinguishers until you turn it for 1 or 2 to set off the squibs. But with this thing, you have to test here, and you'll see it change in a moment. This will come on. Closed extinguisher is available, and again closed extinguisher is available, which is what we're expecting. So extinguisher and fire valve illuminated. Standby pumps, these go on, and we'll see a change up here, or should see a change. Do we not see a change? Standby pumps go on. Fuel pressure low annunciator. Oh, it's on. That's fine. Fire valve. We'll push these open again. And we'll see that the low fuel pressure valve, low fuel pressure light goes out, and if we turn these off again, you'll see the red lights come back on. Good, good, good. Standby pumps go off. Fuel pressure lights illuminated. Next page. Transfer flow is down here. So this is for fuel. So you go to the left and then you should see the lights change up here, which they do. Go to the right. Check the lights swap over, which they do. Go back to both. And then it's all good. Just get rid of that because we've been playing around. So we can go yes, 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 yes. Avionics air fail message. Now I've never figured out which one this is. Which is AFX off? No. Not entirely sure. But either way, we're going to alternate aviation blower goes on, which is down here. This one, this little switch behind the behind here. That goes on, and then whatever alert it should have turned off, it's turned off somewhere, but I've got no idea where it is. And then it wants us to turn it back off again. So we will assume it's worked and turn it back off again. And coming down, avionics alternate blower off. Fuel quantities checked. Oxygen pressure is confirmed. Lights are as required. Talking of lights, they're all up here. Masters, no smoking. We'll have the seatbelts lights on. We've got nav lights, and don't know why we've got that on at the minute. But well, we're going to start engine in a moment, so we'll have that on. Now, next thing is to start the engines. So index, normal. Engine starting, we'll use external power. Left condition, no, we need to clear that because I was playing around earlier. Battery voltage is fine because we're still on ground power. Propeller levers both to feather, which there we go. ICAS pilot and co-pilot avionics, it says off. I'm going to leave them on because I want to see what I'm doing. Left gen, right gen are both off. Battery is on. External power source is connected. External power is on because that's what we're using. External power switch is on. ICAS is on. Right engine ignition and engine start, which is this one. Push it forwards. In fact, we're going to just quickly pop outside as we do this. We'll listen to the noise. Us up and running. So condition levers 12%, which we've got. N1 ITT have gone up, which we're fine with. Right oil pressure is fine. Right ignition and engine start goes to off. It's really important this, otherwise your avionics get really upset with you. And then I can pop the generator on. Should go to reset and then on. Continue, right, left ignition and engine start goes on. Should be able to turn the sound down again. But we'll listen to this from in here. Hopefully you guys can hear me better now. Again, I just wanted to listen to the sound of those glorious PT6s. Oh, what have I done here? did something there that it didn't like, didn't I? Oh, that's what I've done. I've left that on. It's draining too much power. That's what's happening. So every time that happens, I always forget one of these, and then it sets this ball in motion of this mess where I've just utterly stuffed stuff up. Fortunately, it keeps your route in, which is one of the benefits. So it's gone right back to the start with this. We will start to initialize that system again, and then we'll come back to here, pre-flight, engine starting. We've done that. We're working our way through that. All data's okay, and then we can just go back to our what were we doing? Flight plan. There we go. We just set that one back as well, and then this one can go to flight plan as well. Oh, we've got the message as well now. Flight plan. What's the message? Update. 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 Message is gone now. Happy days. Sorted. Continue with this then. Left condition lever. Both condition levers are fully up. External power is off. Both generators are on. Gen ties are normal, which they are. And then we can go to left and right gen ties open, messages are extinguished. Yeah. Right gen in op. Let's just recycle that. Oh, is it dead? No, it's not dead. Of course it's not dead. I haven't broken it yet. Left and right gen ties, gen load parallel within 10%, and finally prop levers go to full forward. That's not prop lever, that's a prop lever. Let's make sure we get the right lever here. Okay, you'll also notice with the engines, we've got beta range here. If I just nudge you can hear the beta there. If I just nudge the throttles forwards, you'll hear the click. It's quite quiet, and then it goes into beta. It's weird because you go, oh, it's in the red. What happens is this kind of goes around twice. So 1,000 is your normal, which is sort of straight up, and it'll go all the way around to 2,000 and so on and so forth. So at this point you think, oh God, you know, I'm really close to the red, etc. It's not quite as bad as it looks. So there we go. We've done that. So next one. Normal power, normal this. We've done that. For taxi, pilot and co-pilot avionics are both on. For how long, I don't know. Standby indicators are fine. Bleed air valves set to both. So that's set to both. We'll have it nice and chilly. That's absolutely fine. Temperature goes to auto. Blower's temperature set, temperature mode selector to auto, lights as required. We're going to taxi in a moment. Cabin lights and furnishings as required. No smoke and seatbelts operating and on. So we'll put our taxi light on, and no smoke, so that's all fine. Coming down, P2 and co-pilot instruments are operating. Flaps, don't put the heaters on at the moment because they will burn and they will melt things and stuff. A flap forward wing to retract, so just make sure the wings are retracted. CDU time and position verified, absolutely fine with that. Radar is standby at the moment, and finally brakes release and checked. Index, and we'll just skip forwards to the next one. Ready for that. Takeoff. Before takeoff, final items. So let's get ourselves moving, and we'll see what the ground handling's like. Now we shouldn't have any chocks in. Why are we not moving? Props? No, props are fully forward. That should be fine. Let's jump outside and see if it's... Oh, it was paused. Ah, of course it was EGPH when I did that. All right, okay. Okay, well, we're just about to stuff it into the... So how have we done all of that with it paused? How weird. Oh well, don't care. Bring ourselves round to the right. Go through all the posts. I don't care. And what we'll say is the ground handling's very nice, the steering's very positive, you can get back to where you should have been in the first place quite easily, and you control your speed via the beta range of the props, which is what you should be doing realistically, rather than riding the brakes. We're going to go left then right, backtrack on 2.7. A little bit of brake to make this turn. So in addition to the beta, we'll just use a little bit of brakes because that's quite a tight turn. And this is uphill, this bit at East Mids. Kind of getting that sensation in it now. And we'll just come around here. It's busy here with Ryanair and Jet2, it would appear. I don't know what I'm using as a traffic insertion tool at the minute, whether it's the FSTL, whatever it is from oh, I can't remember the name of the company now, or the organisation. The guys who do the free Airbus improvement, those guys. The ones who do the A32NX, whatever it is. But they've got a traffic injector and a library of stuff, and I think their traffic injector's working, but maybe a little bit too excitable. Also getting a bit of an issue with the textures there in some planes. Might be lighting as opposed to anything else, but that is going to be hammering my frame rate. Which reminds me, I was going to put up dev mode and see about the frame rates, but I get decent frame rates with this aircraft. It's no frame rate hog, to be fair. It's really rather decent. Really rather decent. The details of my system and my specs are in the description of the video anyway. This is where I look nervously across to make sure that I have been actually recording for the last 20 minutes. Otherwise I'm like, oh no! I'm sure we've all been there for those who make videos. So this is the East Midlands scenery from Orbex. I don't know who actually makes it off the top of my head. It might be Pyrig, it might be somebody else, I don't know. But it's available through the Orbex web store, which is where I got it. But I think it's available through the actual Microsoft Flight Simulator store as well. We don't really need all this length for this aircraft, but we might as well use it. We'll take off from a whiskey. We don't need full length. Okay, I've just taxied out to the threshold, lined up, and I'm just going to mention a couple of things about the takeoff, what I've got set up. So sync the heading bug, just quickly press that button there. What I'm going to do is take off in heading mode, and then once we're safe I'm going to swing us around, probably do a direct to Trent, and we'll see how it copes with that in nav. But as I say, initially I'm going to take off in heading. I'm also going to take off in vertical speed, which you'll see down here. Now, because of the faff down here, with this control here, which is an absolute nightmare if you're trying to manipulate it, I've decided to bind something on my joystick so it goes quite quickly. But you'll also see a fascinating thing is if I come down here, the limit, if anybody knows, by the way, why my stuff's going blurry, please let me know. I think it might be something to do with the anti-aliasing, but I'm not an expert on these things. But you'll notice it goes up to 1000, down to 1000. If you then increase it, you'll notice the numbers come up, which I think is so cool. So we're going to set an initial climb out. This thing's quite speedy and quite nippy. So we'll set an initial climb out of 2000 feet a minute. Just need to make sure my altitude pre-select is high enough for our climb out. I've had to restart this aircraft so many times whilst I've been learning it, which for me I think is quite a good thing, because that's because the pitot heat's overheating. I think it's good to have a challenge or something where it forces you to learn more about the aircraft, the avionics, etc. Let's just make sure that that's not in beta. Likewise, don't worry about the red here with the engines. The dials go round twice, so when you start you'll go into the red. Don't worry about that with the prop. It's not a massive issue with the prop. It is governed. They are governed props, so they will look after themselves over a period of time. Likewise, I have a tendency, the green arrow here, as you can see, is the torque. I have a tendency to overtorque the engines, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. Let's just have a quick look, see if all my kerfuffle's done much damage. I can accept 4% damage at that. What I will do is make sure that my inertial separators are on, and all my heaters are on, although it's a lovely day in the UK today, so not so much of an issue. Right, so let's get ourselves going. As I say, I'm just going to take off, and away we go. Make sure the engines are responding. Turboprop, we should have a pretty instant response to what we're doing. And try and do it without over-temping the over-speeding the engines and over-temping things. So power set, we are accelerating. Here comes 80 knots. Nice steering, able to keep it on the centre line, quite straightforward. And hopefully we can get airborne. Oh, nicely off the ground. Gear up. And away we jolly well go. Accelerating nicely, and then just following the heading. I'm just going to pop the autopilot on. There we go, and we're still climbing nicely, which is good. Now coming here, just going to bring it round to the right. And then once we're around here, I'll just do a direct intercept to Trent. So here we go, direct to Trent. Oh, we need to be on nav, don't we? Where's my nav gone? There it is. And hopefully, yeah, here we go. So down here, we've got direct to Trent. We're climbing away nicely. Can actually take a bit of power off. And we'll also look at easing it off the props a little bit. Now the props I haven't got set up as an axis. Let's see, what does that do? About 1670, something like that. Bring it a bit further back. And then this one as well. Oh, no, not that one. 1600 will do. And then down here we've got our prop sync, which is there. So we'll pop that on. And we're climbing away nicely. So as I take power off, in order to maintain 2,000 feet a minute, it will drop the airspeed. It will nose down to maintain that speed. So I'm just literally going to bring the power back until we get to a speed I want. Then I'm going to pop it into indicated airspeed, and then we'll fly away from that. We'll go down to about 190, I think. Get ourselves ready down here. There's indicated airspeed. There we go. Click that in at 190. Blue correct appears, and then I'll just pop the power back in, and that'll start us on a nice climb, and then you'll see that this will climb accordingly. As we power back up. And you see we've now got 2,500 feet a minute. This instrument's fascinating. I really do find this instrument something that is a bit of an oddity, but I also think it's a really good idea. I think it's such an interesting element. But here we go. So I've never quite understood AFX enabled, but there we go. Because we're off the ground, we can obviously close the ice, the inertial separator doors, so you can see it animated coming down here. It will block this exhaust here off, and then what the hell happened? That opens, allows us a clean path for the airflow. So instead of the normal inertial separator where it's on, where this is closed, the air then has to go around this corner. As it goes around this corner, the particles, the solid particles within it, can't make this bend. It's too tight, so they then get thrown down into this. The flap door obviously opens to enable it to happen, and then the air continues without the particles that it's separated, and everything that's separated gets chucked out here. Very clever idea, using the inertia of what's in the airstream, but very, very well implemented here. Auto feather can come off. We don't need that. AFX. Of course it's auto feather. Of course it's auto feather. What am I thinking about? We'll let it level out, we'll sync the heading, and we'll continue the climb. And then obviously what I can also do is increase the range so that we can see the next waypoint, which is Pole Hill up here. So there we go. I'll continue the climb out. Actually, you can see the engines just dropped to 95% now, so they are going to need some maintenance at some point. But it's obviously down to my handling of them, and this is one of the things here. We need to get them out of this red zone here, back into the green. That'll obviously affect our climb rate, but not by very much. That's probably one of the reasons why my engine condition is getting worse. But yeah, there we go. That's my takeoff. Whether it's the best way to do it or not, I don't know. But that's my takeoff. And we're off towards Pole Hill, and then obviously on to Tala. Pole Hill, was it Pole Hill? Yeah, Pole Hill and Tala left. So I will see you at top of descent. So as you can see, we've got Tala here. We're going to talk a little bit about the descent and the arrival. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up our nav aids. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to select to sync the heading. I'm going to come here and I'm going to choose, where have we gone? Keep losing it. Right, I'm going to choose heading. Then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go to nav source, change to VOR1. This will change slightly. I'm going to just take it off arc map. HSI is what I want really. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the course for VOR1 to the inbound, which is 240. So course 1. So that's the inbound course for our path at Edinburgh. There we go, 240. In addition, I'm going to go down to 6,000 feet for the first waypoint. I just need to check the radios. So nav is 108.9, so 10890. That pops in there. I'm going to put it on the other side as well, just in case we have any issues. And then we'll go back to nav source for the moment. We've got FMS2 available to us. And then having set everything up, nav source can go back to FMS1. And then we can, having done that with our nav source, we can come back down here, go back into nav, which is there. So we might have a bit of a wiggle. So we've got 50 odd miles to Tallaght. I'm just going to do a very quick bit of mental arithmetic. Our first point that we're going down to is going to be 6,000 at Tallaght. So 6,000 at Tallaght, we're at 22. 22 minus 6 is 16. 16 times 3 means we need 30, 50, maybe 55 miles to descend. So we're just getting to that point now. We can use VNav, I believe, for this. So let me get back to here. Not nav source, not that, not that. Where's it gone? Nav. So what we can do is this waypoint, we want 6,000 feet. In fact, it's not that one, is it? 6,000 feet at Tallaght, yeah, 6,000 at Tallaght. And then that will show that we need 1,600 feet a minute rate of descent. Then at 27, which at this, I think, at 23 from Tallaght. Yeah, we're not quite matching up here. So let's delete that one. At this point, I'm just not going to do that. I'm just going to start to go down. So as I say, we want 6,000. And we can do our vertical speed, take a bit of power off, and then vertical speed. We'll go to about 1800. That'll start to come down, and we just need to watch our speed doesn't go up too high. So this is an advisory as opposed to what we have normally, which is in say an Airbus 737 or a Airbus or a 737, where we would go down pretty much automatically. We have to monitor this. So I'm just going to go back to my charts. 27 miles. Oh, that's out here, isn't it? Oh, right. So 27. We need to be about. Have we got 28 miles on here? Yes, we have. So we're going to delete that one. How do we delete that one? Clear that. Entry too short. Not quite sure about how I do that one. Anyway, let's go back to what we can do, which is 4,000 at 25, did I say? 28. 4,000 at 28. So we can pop that there. I'm going to do 4,000 there as well, actually, because it's only a mile away. We're going to be going down like a mad thing. So just monitoring this as well. We need 1481 at this point, so let's just bring the rate of descent up a bit. Sorry, reduce the rate of descent just a little bit. Not having much impact on the speed, which is good. And hopefully we can get down in time. We will bring the range of this down just to get a better impression of what we're doing. And what I might do is I'll just bring the chart over. You can see what it's doing is it's bringing us in this way down here. So these distances aren't quite matching. That one does at 28, 4,000 feet. The next one's 3,000, and then it brings us round into this this DME arc, brings us round to 9 miles, and that's our descent point there from 3,000 feet. So we should be doing okay there, but I just need to make sure that we get our 3,000 feet set here, which is at what did I say, 25,000 to go. It's going to level out, and we're nice and early before teller actually. Why's it got 1,000 to go? Why did I get the 1,000 to go? Don't know. Yeah, so we seem to be doing okay. So as I say, we're going to go down to 3,000, and we need to be at 3,000 at Delta 259. Delta 259 there, so there we go. 3,000 there, is it? Uh, 259, that goes there. And then that's all good. Let's go and have a look. We shouldn't need any more descents. All the advisories are here and in Delta 259. We've got the 3,000, and then we're going all the way down to here. This is 3,000 as well. So there we go. We've got our advisory VNAV, which I think is kind of cool. So as I say, teller we're looking for 6,000. We've got 25 miles, 15, so we've got 11 to go. Yeah, we've got loads of time. 11 times 3 is 33. So let's just pop the nose down a little bit more. What was it saying? 1293? Not so sure about that actually, to be fair. I think we might just pop it down a little bit, because by my calculations we're not going to get there at that altitude. So there we are, we're all set up, and we'll see how we do in terms of an ILS. Actually, whilst I'm thinking about it, let's just bring this up. Debug display frames per second. You can see my performance. If anybody knows whether it's red or green, so it's flickering here, but I think at the moment, looking at this, the GPU is not the limiting factor. I think it's the CPU is the limiting factor, but I'm not entirely sure. But as you can see, more importantly, I'm getting a frame rate of 110 frames a second, descending nicely into Scottish airspace, and just monitoring it really at this point. In fact, what we could do is we could do some checklists, couldn't we? Index, normal, get rid of that. Go down before takeoff, climb. Descent, pressurization altitude I'm fine with. Rate knob as required, which we've got fine. No smoking and seatbelts are on at the moment. Everything's on at the moment. And what we've got left, lights, etc. So we're all good with that. And then what we can do is go back to index and normal. Before landings we'll have those up and all good to go. So let me just check what we've got set up here. We've got FMS1, descending vertical speed, alt select is armed for 6000 at Tala. We've currently got, oh, what we can do, by the way, I've completely forgotten about this. We do have, where's it gone? It's not on nav, it's not on flight plan, but where's it gone? HSI radar. Let's go back to this. Present position, display. We do have a, oh no, it's not on here. I'm trying to find it now. It's not on nav. It's not an index. Is it in here? In here? No, I've lost it. There's like a progress page basically. I think it's on here. No. Nav source. No. Arc map. No. Not on radar. Oh, I've lost it. There is basically a form of progress, but I can't remember where it is now. How bad is that? Index. Ah, here we go, FMS data. So we've got a progress page, look, as well. Coming down, we've got 2.5 to go for 6. We are doing okay. But you can see here it's giving us the data about from to next waypoint. Final, which is Edinburgh 24 right. Sorry, 24. Runway 24, I should say. It's got quite a little bit of information here about what's going on. So kind of cool. Go back to, not that one, you buffoon. Go back to flight plan. In fact, we need to go back to nav and see what's going on with this. Back up to Teller, and then our next descent is down to 4000. So it's just coming up to 1000 to go. Just going to take a little bit of power off. I don't want to come roaring into this too quick. Now I've been getting memory leaks with the sim. So what you'll find potentially is as I've been descending and coming round, if I have too much going on in terms of the graphics, as I say, I'm not sure which one of these two is graphics, but as I come down, I'm finding that as it's loading stuff in, it's loading in fuzzy textures, not seeing the runway till quite late on. So we'll see how it does with this, but now that should have leveled at 6000. Oh, I've got it set to 5000. Why have I got it set to 5000? Well, that'll do for the minute. We're a bit low, but that's a me error. You can see some of these textures aren't particularly great now. Just need to make sure we're not going to smash into the hilltops and not going to slow down too much. Human error, quite common with an aircraft of this vintage. 200 feet to go. I'm just going to gradually introduce power to keep us going. We are safe that I can see. Just having a look on the chart, what's the minimum safe altitude for this sector? 3,900 as you come in. So we'll be okay. I have to say, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 doesn't half look good quite a lot of the time. Just going to get rid of this so I've got better visuals. In fact, no, I'll leave it on. I'll leave it on so we can have a look at the, just flashed up 2,500 feet. I'm going to set an altitude for a decision altitude of decision height, I should say. Actually, looking at the charts, what's the decision altitude? The decision altitude is 300. 300. Just wondering why it's turning. Let's have a look. Yep, it should be doing that. And now we should be going down to 4,000. So we will bring our altitude down to 4,000. Vertical speed and altitude is here. 4,000, and we'll start to go down. Watching the speed. In fact, I think this should be 6,000. I'm not doing very well at this, am I? And this isn't great. Flying into cloud, descending, just keeping an eye on the radar to see if we get anything scary come up. 500 to go. If we smash into the ground now, this is definitely human error. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's trying to interpret the charts to match this, but at this waypoint, what's this waypoint here? Yeah. Should be descending to 4,000, so I'm okay. I'm okay. We are following the flight path that I had intended for it to do. Whilst I've been faffing around with that, we've lost a bit of airspeed, so just keep an eye on that. Fortunately, with props, they tend to respond very quickly to power changes compared to, say, a jet engine. A little bit of turbulence as we come in. And as I say, platform altitude 3,000 feet, inbound heading to, or inbound course I should say, 240, 108.9. We can just come down here, and 108.9 is set up on the localizer. And so we should be able to just swap straight over to nav onto a course of 240. Although in theory we could let it follow the FMS round, but I'm just conscious that this is quite a tight corner here. So it's 90 degrees. Having said that, that's not unusual for a DME arc. That's quite a common thing for a DME arc, because obviously they're arcing round from the end of the runway, so maybe we just see what it does. We'll be down at 3,000 and we don't have to descend until we're 9 miles. But we're coming down nicely. Oh sorry, we're down nicely. We are trugging in at one hell of a speed. We'll just bring the range of this down so we can get a better impression as to what we're doing. Bring it down one further notch actually. Oh no, don't like that. Once we get to our next waypoint, we're fine at 4,000 for this, but then we go down to 3,000 for the next one. A little bit of cloud out here. Lovely view looking over those canards. What I am going to do is bring up some checklists before landings. Approach speed, we'll go in at about 110 I think. Pressurization is fine, so I will start these early so I'm not stressing myself out. Smoke and seatbelts are both on auto feather arm, so auto feather arm. I'm going to take the sync off just so that I get the opportunity in case I have to go around. Landing gear down, so we'll pause at that point. When we get to this next waypoint, we start our descent to 3,000. It's beautiful, but you can see what I mean in terms of getting blurry now. Over here particularly, look. My level of detail is about 200, I think, something like that for the ground, 150 maybe. So yeah. Does this have memory up here? Memory use? Not entirely sure. Is this memory down here? I don't know. Don't know. Right, pay attention, Richard. Pay attention to what you're doing, because you're getting to a crucial part now. So this is going to go down to 3000, so I can pre-select that, because it doesn't descend unless I tell it to. And we're going to go down on vertical speed as well. Actually, it wants 283, it still wants at 4000. So we've got 3 miles to descend 1000, which is about right. That's absolutely fine. What's our alert for there? Because we haven't got any anything up here. Oh, of course it is. If I change this, that should stop it, should it? Not entirely sure. I assume it's for 1000 to go on the altitude, because we've pre-selected 3000. It's only 1000 feet descent, and obviously the alert is 1000 feet to go. We'll keep syncing the nav as we come round. Sorry, syncing the heading as we come round. We're looking out the window. It's all grey and misty here. Set off in glorious sunshine. A little bit cloudy. Can just about make out the ground here. We will get rid of that actually for the moment. $3,000 armed. We'll go to vertical speed and we'll go into a descent. Just checking. Alt select vertical speed FMS 1. Go down 1000 feet a minute because we're only going to take about a minute to get there. And at this point, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sync the heading. I'm going to switch this over to heading. I'm then going to switch my nav source to nav source. Where have you gone? Where have you gone? Nav source to VOR1. Make sure it's on 240, and we've got the localizer. This is localizer 1, 240 India Tango Hotel. And then I'm going to just let it come round, come up here, and then I'm going to turn left. So it's got us on a back course at the moment, so that's just because we're flying away, which obviously it isn't a back course. And we've got heading alt cap, descending 100 feet to go. Bring the power off. We'll start to think about having ourselves set up. We can do 170 at the minute. It's like general aviation aircraft. A lot of the aircraft you see, it's got a white arc for flaps, so we know what's available to us. Edinburgh is somewhere over here. Again, that's not particularly great in terms of visuals. Looks like something from the old days, doesn't it? But that's the sim, not the aircraft. Let's bring the range right down. Can we go down one more? Yeah. So we're just coming around. This is the centre fix here. what we're going to do is turn us back in. Once we're back in, so we're not doing a back course, which is what it thinks we're doing in a minute, we'll bring it round to try and intercept approximately the centre fix. I'll put it onto nav and we can go in on the ILS. And then I'm just going to bring it round now so that it doesn't think we're on back course anymore. Then as we bring it round, back course has gone. It's got ILS indications coming round on towards centre line. This is nice. Slightly left of centre line but correcting nicely. Below glide slope. At this point I'm going to put it onto approach. And hopefully we'll descend with the glide slope. So gear down, flaps down. Now we need to watch the speed because that will wash off quite quickly. Slightly right of centre line, glide slope yet to indicate. Got localizer, glide slopes armed. Localizer's correcting slowly, glide slope's not in yet. We don't descend until we get to 9 miles, which I think we're already past, but the glide slope doesn't seem to be indicating. Oh, here it comes. Yeah, here we go. Glide slope's coming down now. Centre line's coming in. Runway's at 9 miles, so we should be initiating a descent shortly. But we are indicating that we've got a glide slope indication, so I'm going to go with that, just watching the speed a little bit now. So we don't end up in a stall. Our stall speed's this red one down here. The blue one is the single engine best rate of climb. So we'll let the speed bleed off a little bit. How are we doing? Can we see the runway? Last time you see what I mean? This is all fuzzy. So this is potentially down to a memory leak. We're still getting 90 to 100 frames a second, look. Oh, that's a fairly sudden interception of the glide slope. Bring the throttle back. Making sure we're going to approach at a decent speed. What I'll actually do is I think I will take it off autopilot and we'll hand fly it. Wait. See how it handles. I'm not saying I'll do any good because she's very sensitive. And my controls are quite firm, shall we say. Let's take that speed off. We don't want to be that fast. Don't want to be anywhere near that fast. So we're on glide slope on localizer, and we'll see if we can keep that. Just trim it a little bit. Trim, 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 trim. Still trimming. I want it to come in about 100, 110. And then we'll get rid of the speed as we get closer to the ground. Trim is everything when you're hand flying this, which is rare for me to be in trim with anything, to be fair. Drifting left, correcting. On centerline, on glide path. 110, which is, or 114, which is pretty much where I wanted to be. Check, gear down 3 greens. Oh, idiot. That's messing around with that. It's brought us off. So it's slightly off centerline, are we? No. Shouldn't be doing such excessive movements so late on, but because I took my eye off the ball, we are. Just going to correct with that. And then looking at coming in. Still got glide slope, still got localizer. 600 to go. Well, that's the rad alt, I should say. That's not really what I'm after. Just watch the speeds descending a little bit too much. Watch the glide slope and the localizer for that matter, you buffoon. 600 to go now. Sorry, 700 to go now. Decision altitude was 300. Trim, 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 trim. Watch the speed. You put too much power on. Watch what you're doing, because you just looked at your speed. You took your scan off. You didn't do your scan, which is bad. Runway's visual. So we're going to land 2 reds, 2 whites. You got to love traffic programs. I'm going to land regardless. I don't care. I'm going to run him over, smash into the back of him. We're all going to die in a fiery ball. The joy of simming is I don't have to care about that. We're back to 1 white, 3 reds, slightly to the left of centerline, correcting slowly. Come on, Richard, you can correct this. I am going to be quite happy to land at this. Just watch you're not drifting to the right too much, which you are. And we'll try and see if we can find a centerline at some point. Now, I don't want to go back into beta. You know what we didn't do? Didn't put our prop speed back up again, did we? Very remiss. Never mind, we're down. I'll accept that. Down to 75 frames a second, that's not too bad. So we're just on beta slowing down. We haven't used any brakes yet. And 38, 40 frames a second, 80. That's because I clicked away on the screen. So that explains that. Right, let's just get rid of that dev thing. And let's taxi ourselves. I'm not going to taxi to a stand, we're just going to taxi ourselves to a point where we can talk about the aircraft. It's the first point I've used the brakes at all because of the beta. The beta range being available. I'm going to have to stick a little bit of power on because of the beta range to get around this corner. Right. I'm going to steer off into the dirt at this point. Alright, the beta's stopped us. This'll do. We'll put some brakes on and have a quick chat. So, starting off, documentation. Let's revisit that. documentation. Black Square. Okay, so obviously the website tells us a lot, but one of the things we do have the opportunity to do is there's a YouTube list of playlists, so you can learn more about the aircraft, and then the PDF lists some of the features, but more importantly what we've got is an input in terms of what's going on with the documentation. And I have to say, historically, Black Square's documentation has always been good. It's well presented, it's legible, it's in a good order, it starts with features, etc. I mean, there's some like St Elmo's fire, cathode ray tube simulation in terms of warm-ups, etc. That are absolutely fantastic. A lot of information about the aircraft to start with, then you get your speeds. Whereabouts were we? Maneuvering speed, best line. Didn't have landing speeds there. I assume you can calculate them somewhere. Lots of helpful information in terms of installing, uninstalling panels, etc., what they are, and so on and so forth. There's a huge amount of information in here in terms of operating the aircraft. Lots of really beneficial information. As I said, I've not really demonstrate it, but you can select waypoints on the screen using the dobber thing. So not this. So down here on this screen, if you go to index, present position, you can do it on present position or on anything else. You come down here. You could be flying along and then you say, oh, I've got to divert to Perth. So you click on this, bring it over here, and then you could use it as part of your either flight planning or in flight. It will tell you useful information about how far away things are, for example. So if I just bring this up, it shows you that this point here is on a bearing of 009. 33 miles away. So yeah, it's fascinating in terms of that element of it, but let's just go back to where we were. As I say, huge amount of information, things like route lists that you can put in, and all sorts of stuff. The CDU, controller display unit, is I want to say the early steps towards what we then see in things like the Dash 8. So the early steps of Collins, but the overlap between various bits is fascinating. Again, I'm going to use that word a lot because there's so much in this that is awesome. And there's so much reading that you can do in here in terms of what you can do and what the aircraft's capable of doing. So in short, the documentation is absolutely fantastic. I have no qualms about it. It's really well done. It's typical Black Square, very, very thorough and easy to read. Also, obviously, because it's a document, you can then do Control F and do finding stuff. Looking at the exterior is modelled very, very nicely. There's a couple of areas where I picked it up on the having a look at the exterior, but there's not much at all. They were just textures, but the exterior modelling is very, very nice. Going to highlight the sound. The sound in this aircraft is awesome, as are the animations. So we'll bring that up. You can see the animations for the canards. And then the fact that you can walk around and you can open things like this. Obviously the sound issue with the door is a bit of a pain. Likewise with the new system in 2024, you can have a look in there. Lots of good information in there. Close that up. But the exterior, very nicely modelled, lovely use of PBR. Nice ability to put things in, chocks, etc., in case I do something that's going to end up with us roaring off the runway like that. I've obviously got my arrow key bound to the throttle on this thing, which is a pain, isn't it? Let's go back inside. So as I say, the exterior very nicely modelled, both in terms of 3D texturing and PBR lighting, very, very nicely done. The interior, same thing again really. Lovely texturing, absolutely love the era and the period this is from. Really good modelling with things like the systems. Well, let's go back to texturing. The texturing's done to a very nice standard. There's a couple of little things that I've picked up on which don't, it just stands out. A couple of nuts and bolts, for example. And there's not a lot clickable in the cabin, but I'm not really overly concerned by that. Nice features like being able to do the pins, etc. So the stuff that's interactive is very nice. Texturing, particularly on things like the seats and the 3D modelling and the veneer wood, etc., all very nicely done. Absolutely no qualms. Now, systems. Systems are a combination of interesting, quirky. You need to learn them. I'm still in that learning phase, and when you don't know what's quite going on, you need to just revert back to flying the aircraft and not stuffing it into the ground. But the systems are top-notch in this thing, so I don't destroy my aircraft. And that's supported with persistent modelling. So persistent modelling in terms of fuel and also damage, so what state is our aircraft in. Alright, we're alright, we've still got 95% on the engine, so we've not done too much, we've not over-temped them too much. Obviously it was very remiss of me. Did I didn't put the no, I didn't put the props back to full. But the EFB, which is part of what you manage your systems with, is very well done. So obviously you've got the usual EFB that Black Square does. I am a fan of it. I'll be honest, I think one of the reasons I'm a fan is because it includes aesthetic elements, as well as showing you, for example, things like your inertial separated doors, etc. It shows you how hard the engine's working. So let's advance left-hand throttle. To the best of my knowledge, these quite often go red. Maybe not, as the temp increases, but it's very nice because if you end up with a failed chip detector, it comes up here. If you have the ignition going, these will flash. It's all good. If you have failures in terms of filters, they will flash as well, or they will highlight as well. It shows you the FOD intensity of where you are, which is quite useful. And finally, the failures are extensive and well replicated. There's an awful lot of failures for what is not necessarily airliner complexity, but you can then play around with those, mean time between failure and also scheduled mode if you wanted to do that. Looking at the modelling of the actual cockpit and the instrumentation, all done to a very high standard, very 70s 80s. It's really interesting. The FMS is so unusual compared to what we're familiar with. The fact that the FMS includes elements for the radar, for navigation, for the radios, for nav sources, it's kind of an all-in-one unit. Although decision height is set up here, or decision altitude, I should say. Decision height, decision altitude is set up here, depending on what you want. You've got controls down here for your autopilot and here as well, or for your flight director and autopilot down here. You've got duplication. You've got duplication of all sorts of systems, including the radios. The instrumentation is typical Beechcraft, which we've seen subsequently. on a lot of aircraft. This instrument I find fascinating. It's an interesting instrument, and actually I think it's quite good. It's a very useful combination of instrumentation, and if you think about it, it's provided the space then, instead of having a VSI down here to bring in elements of the avionics that you would potentially need to use. Talking about which the avionics are very in depth. I've yet to find something that's not implemented. It's all there really, and again I find it a very interesting era and period to look at things like the combination where you can have flight plans, and it doesn't have the SIDS and stars that we're familiar with from operating airliners, but then it is from an era where FMCs were in a very early iteration, so it's not a surprise. And in those days they did a lot more in terms of, they did NDB approaches, they did DME arcs, they didn't necessarily do SIDS and stars. I don't know if that's a thing that may come in, but really it's not a massive issue for me. I think what's implemented is done to a very, very high standard. As I say, working our way through systems, I've got absolutely no complaints. It's of an interesting period, shall we say. I think there's a lot to be said for the period that it comes from. There we go, just get us out of beta. There's a few nice touches, like the fact that when you bind this, I know I mentioned about it previously, but the solution is to bind it. I did bind it in the end, and it becomes so much easier than trying to faff around, particularly during busy times like takeoffs and landings. It flew a very nice ILS. Again, not all aircraft in the sim do that, but this one certainly did. And then again, hand flying it, this thing is a beautiful thing to hand fly. I do have, as I say, a Moza flight stick, so I get feedback as well, but just the handling in terms of general handling for this aircraft is very nice. Now, the one thing we never got round to actually was stalling, which I did intend to do, although in an aircraft like this that is very much a non-event. If we're brutally honest, it's very much a non-event, because all it does is drop the nose, build up speed, regain authority on the nose again, and up it comes again. So you kind of end up with a nodding element with canard-based foreplanes in terms of stalling. I've obviously got an issue with my anti-aliasing because the instruments blur with the movement. I've also found that obviously the memory leak is an issue, but that's sim based as opposed to the aircraft. I haven't found any issues with the aircraft causing difficulties with performance, so that's all to be commended. And all in all, this is a cracking add-on. It really is, and I must commend Black Square for it. It's a cracking add-on, and in my opinion it's a very, very good general aviation aircraft to have a lot of fun with. So there we go, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to tick like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.